Hello everybody, you have tuned in to Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I cover virtually any aspect of making a murderer. I go over the evidence, the documents, the photos. So if you like, stay tuned, and in the future I'll have many more videos besides the one you're about to see. Hello folks, we're here today to talk about KZ's latest addendum. Anyway, it was filed yesterday, which was October 31st of 2017. I'm now making this video on the evening of November 1st. So it was filed yesterday. But anyway, we all got to see it today finally because it didn't come out right away yesterday. And it's got some more things, some more interesting things, some things that happened since the things she filed a week ago. Just new developments that cast a considerable doubt on the conviction of Steven Avery, and we'll get to that in a second. Here we're going to go through some of the things here today. I just want to say I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the things that I thought were the most important to hit here today. Mainly the fact that it is now being said that Teresa did leave the salvage yard. That is what is now being said. And it's being confirmed, and it's pretty much now proven that that is what is now being said by Bobby Dassey. So that means now that the big part of the prosecution's case, where they had the testimony of Bobby Dassey telling the jury that he saw Teresa walking up to the trailer, and that when he left, her RAV4 was still there. That's not the case. His brother, Brian Dassey, has already come out and said that has made an affidavit and signed it with Zellner, stating that back when the investigation was going on, he told the officers to go talk to his brother Bobby because his brother Bobby saw her leave. Literally those words. And when that was in the motion a week ago on the 23rd of October, that basically that created this thing where Bobby had said that Teresa left, which was not what was in his testimony. So that's the big thing here that stuck out to me when I was at work today, because I didn't get to this thing right away, obviously. When I was at work today, and at lunchtime I went ahead and checked in a little bit, and I saw the screenshot of the conversation with Barb and Scott and Steven talking about whether or not Teresa left. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and move on into the motion here now, and I'll obviously be coming back to talk to you soon. So this is the introduction, where she's going to basically lay out what she's looking to talk about here today. On October 23rd of 2017, Mr. Avery filed a motion for reconsideration of this court's order summarily dismissing his motion for post-conviction relief, pursuant Wisconsin Statute 974.06. The motion for reconsideration is based in part on 1. New evidence meeting the legitimate tendency test established by the State v. Denny, connecting Bobby Dassey and Scott Taddick to the crime. New evidence demonstrating that Mr. Avery's trial and post-conviction attorneys were ineffective by failing to adequately investigate the evidence that Bobby Dassey as a potential suspect, and or impeaching Bobby's trial testimony that Teresa Halbach left the Avery property in contradiction to Bobby's testimony. A new Brady witness who provides evidence that Miss Halbach left the salvage yard on October 31st, 2005. A new Brady witness who established that Miss Halbach's day planner was in her vehicle at the time of her murder and in the possession of Ryan Hillegas after the murder. The state's knowing use of false trial testimony of Bobby and Mr. Hillegas. So, as some of you may realize, it's going to become very, very important in the coming weeks and possibly months. Number one, Bobby and his trial testimony and how it conflicts with his initial statements to law enforcement, and how it differs with what he's saying now. So that's going to be one thing. And the other thing is going to be this Dassey computer. This Dassey computer is going to cause a lot of havoc, I think. It's unavoidable, because when you look at the results that are coming out of it. It's just, and couple that with what you're going to see in this first clip. The first clip here where basically Barb is emphatically denying that she ever had internet around that time. And the guy who checked the computer out, who got into it and, you know, got all the images and everything and checked all the activity, can verify that it was certainly being used on the internet. It was certainly getting on the internet. So it leaves us at this kind of strange, you know, impasse, you know, or, you know, did Barb not realize she had internet? I don't know. Anyway, so there's that. Then, you know, that's what we're going to be looking at right now. It's basically, this is a conversation that takes place between Stephen Barb and Scott Taddick the day after the previous motion that Zellner filed just a week ago. This happened. That was on the 23rd, and this conversation happens on the 24th between Stephen, Scott, and Barb. So we'll take a look. A recently recorded conversation with Mr. Avery, Barb, and Mr. Taddick provides new evidence of Barb's lack of credibility on the topic of the Dassey computer. After Mr. Avery's motion for reconsideration was filed on October 23, 2017, he made a prepaid collect call to Barb on October 24, 2017. Barb is Mr. Avery's sister, the mother of Bobby, the stepmother of Brad, and the current wife of Mr. Taddick. The call was recorded by Waupun Correctional Center. During the recorded call, Mr. Avery and Barb discussed the new evidence cited in Mr. Avery's motion for reconsideration connecting Bobby and Mr. Taddick to Miss Halbach's murder, with regard to the disturbing internet searches and pornographic images found on the computer used by Bobby. Barb states as follows. Stephen Avery, why is all this shit on the computer? Barb, there was nothing on my effing computer. All this. I didn't even have effing internet back then. Stephen Avery, yes you did. Barb, no I didn't. And back and forth and back and forth, and he tells her, well, it's right there on the computer. She's like, I did not have internet. Stephen says, well. She says, well, nothing, I didn't. So Barb's vehement denial that her computer had access to the internet at the time of Miss Halbach's murder is probative because it is unequivocally false. As cited by Mr. Avery's motion for reconsideration, a forensic examination of Barb's computer by forensic computer expert Gary Hunt shows that the computer was used to access violent images of young deceased females, rape, torture, and incest, and pedophilia on the internet at times when only Bobby was home. Barb's denial is especially telling given that she took steps to delete the disturbing images before police seized her computer on April 21st of 2006. This is additional new evidence that supports Mr. Avery's claim that the recovered images on the Dassey computer meet with the legitimate tendency test established by Denny by implicating Bobby in Miss Halbach's murder. Now, there's a lot to this motion. Obviously, I obviously am going to probably do another video on this thing because there's just a lot here to kind of absorb, really. But there's, in addition to the motion itself, there's a bunch of things attached. Full transcripts of the conversation that Barb and Scott and Steve basically had on the phone. And one of the things that Steven keeps saying to Barb, when Barb, is he keeps telling Barb that Kathleen, or KZ, is just following the evidence. That's all she's doing. KZ is following the evidence. And it's not because Steven wants to make things rough on Barb. He just told KZ, look, wherever the evidence takes you, follow it. Figure out what happened here. Figure out why I'm in jail wrongfully. So that's where it's at. I think ultimately what really needs to happen here is we need to get particularly Bobby in so that he can tell the story of why at trial he said that he saw that he never saw Teresa leave, that her RAV4 was still there when he left. We need him to come in and tell that story. It's possible that he was forced or bullied to bend his statement, because without any real trace of Teresa anywhere in the trailer, garage, whatever, with the exception of the magic bullet found in March, there's no trace of her. There's like literally no evidence of her being there other than the bones, which are also a problem, because you're finding some of those bones in Barb's burn barrel and also over in the Rodant quarry. So the prosecution knew they had a problem. They had a problem that they really were having trouble really placing Teresa there at the salvage yard, because the bones were suspect and the bullet came along months later and it's certainly suspect, extremely so. So they knew that they needed his testimony. They needed him on the stand saying, oh yeah, when I left it, her RAV4 was still there, because that allowed Ken Kratz to continue to spin his web. So we got to get the story. We got to get why, how he was bullied or whatever the story is, but we need to get it, because at this point it's pretty obvious that something isn't washing, and so we got to figure out what's going on, and we got to get the truth out there. And the best way to do that is to go straight to Kathleen Zellner and just tell her the story so that she can go out and deal with this. So anyway, we'll move into the next one now, which is going to deal with more about, it's going to be dealing with the fact that Bobby actually did say that she left. So this is once again conversation between Barb and Scott and Steven. Barb and Mr. Tadek have recently made admissions that Miss Halbach left the Avery property before her murder. Even more important, however, are admissions from Barb and Scott, or Barb and Mr. Tadek, in phone call, and that Miss Halbach left the Avery property before her murder. Specifically regarding Bobby's statements that he observed Miss Halbach leave, the following conversation occurred. Stephen Avery: Bobby's home? He was always home. Well, most of the time he was home. No. He doesn't know effing shit. And he said she left? That's right. Yeah, she left. Yeah? Yeah. Well, he didn't testify for that. And therein lies the issue. I mean, that's not what he said at trial, the most important time. So, there we see Barb and Scott are very emphatically stating that Teresa left. She left the salvage yard before being murdered. So, that is where we're at, on that. And that is huge. Like I said, it's huge because Bobby's testimony was huge for the jury. Because of Bobby Dassey, this evidence was able to barely float over, in my opinion. I mean, that's why the jury didn't get him for mutilation of a corpse. Okay? The reason why is because a lot of jurors they really didn't want to go along with the guilty plea, but it became such a, big deal in there. But the fact of the matter is that he was not actually found guilty of that. So you can't help but wonder what the jury was thinking when they do something like that. They get him for the murder, but not for the mutilation. So, all right, now we're going to move into something else. Now, you guys have seen me do videos about the coercion of Brendan and the tactics of these law enforcement officers. Well, as I was reading the transcripts here, I saw an interesting statement from Barb that I thought I might just share real quick. Alright, so this is in the middle of a part of the conversation where, some accusations and some claims are being made and stuff like that. And this, to my mind, speaks of how hard, look at Mr. Wiegert and Wendy Baldwin were working to get women to say Barb Tadek. That's just like a Mark Wiegert and Wendy Baldwin trying to get me to say that you molested me. How about that one? and she's letting Steven know that's something Mark Wiegert was trying to get her to say. So, you know, I just found that kind of just disturbing, because there's once again Mark Wiegert planting ideas in people's heads, planting statements, trying to plant statements, in, you know. So just like he was trying to do with Jody, just like they did with Brendan, because poor Brendan just wasn't prepared for that situation and how to protect himself or defend himself, or that he even knew that he needed to. So they got Brendan, but I mean, look at how hard they're trying. I mean, it's just, gosh, trying so hard to get people to say bad things about Steven, suggesting things that they could say about him. Yeah. So now we're going to move into the last little bit here. And this last little bit right here is about the computer. Now, as I've said, this computer is going to be an important thing. It's going to be getting talked about. So this is an interesting little thing from the computer experts affidavit that I wanted to go ahead and show everybody. It shows basically the blocks of time that were deleted from the computer's memory. And so I just wanted to go ahead and put this up here real quick, because it just shows the time period of when the erasures happen. So I'll show you that real quick and we'll be back one more time. Using 2017 technology, I have detected 8 periods in 2005 when computer records are missing and presumably deleted from the DASI computer. August 23rd through the 26th, August 28th through September 11th, September 14th and 15th, September 24th through October 22nd, October 22nd and 24th, October 26th through November 2nd, and November 4 through November 13, and November 15 through to December 3rd. And those are all the time periods. So there we see all the erasures are all basically leading up to and after Halloween in 2005. So just I just thought it was noteworthy, really, when I saw that there. Just I thought the times were, you know, because he's saying that those are all the erasures from 2005. He's not saying that there was erasures and deletions back in January, February, March, April, May, June, July. You know what I mean? So they all happened in a very specific way. So it's just noteworthy. So like I said, I think Kathleen Zellner is basically just trying to get, you know, particularly Bobby or Scott or whoever else who has given a statement that isn't exactly true, to come in and explain why. Come in and tell her why. Let her know what happened that caused, you know, them to give that statement, that incorrect statement, or whatever it was. You know, were you bullied by law enforcement to give that statement, to augment or to bend your original statement? What's the story behind it, so that she can go after the people that she needs to go after? So, as I said, if in the transcripts, and I'll revisit this, I will come back to this thing again, because there's just, like I said, a lot of stuff here to kind of process. So, but in the you know, conversations that they're having, Steven continuously tells Barb, it's not about you. I told her to follow the evidence, and that is what she's doing. She's following the evidence. It's not a personal thing. They're not gunning for Barb or Scott or whatever. That's not the point. That's not what it is. It's the evidence is being followed, and the evidence is bringing them there. So we got to figure out what the story is behind it, essentially. So it's entirely possible it's explainable, and Scott and Bobby can go on down to Kathleen Zellner's office and get their houses in order and all straightened up. I do hope that's going to happen. So anyway, that's about it for today's video, people. We'll see you later. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe.